It's Tuesday, June 25th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. It is a gardening day. The rhodos are out. Many of the blooms are on bust, and we're here for your grow questions and your garden updates. Ross Travers is here with me, and we're about to get down to agribusiness. Horticulturist Ross Travers is here. If you want to join the conversation, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. You can text us for the easier questions, 709-327-8206, or the signal at cbc.ca for emails. And as always, folks, you know, if you're calling in, you can have like burning grow questions or just to say, hey, here's an update on how things are going. It is in the St. John's area today. A bunch of rain coming down. For those of you who need the rain, I hope you get it, and I hope some of the conditions get a little bit better in certain parts of the province. And for those of you who have sun and things are okay, I'm very happy for you. How you doing, Ross?
Good, Adam.
Thanks for coming in, man. For folks, if you're in a spot that's got a rain warning, is there anything to be thinking about for your plants? I mean, other than rain can be good, but if it's too much, there's obviously such thing as too much of a good thing.
Rain was welcome because it was dry for the last couple of weeks in this area.
Yeah.
And of course. This time of the year, the plants really benefit from enough moisture to keep steady growth.
Yeah, it's it's nice to see the boost that they get after a good drink, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. Speaking of rhododendrons, they're not affected the blooms are not affected very much by rain. They still look real good. Even after a rain. Yeah. I mentioned just the rhodos there. It's such a nice part of this. When things are really out, right? When they really kind of hit each year, it is especially up on your property. Yes.
It's just such a lovely thing to watch and see and enjoy.
Yeah.
What for you? How the lead up into this each year, what's it like for you, for the enjoyment of just seeing all, for you, it's years of cultivating and kind of manicuring a property. So what's that like for you? Well,
when I walk around the property, you turn a corner and, there's something in bloom here. And with the rhododendrons, I have them planted in many places around the property. And so they add an element of surprise when they come in bloom, because I might not see them every day.
Yeah. No, of course. And what are you up to in the garden?
Well, I'm trying to get my vegetables.
Okay, so this is a good message for people, right? If someone doesn't have their vegetables in yet.
Yeah, it's no problem for transplants and for most of the seeds.
Yeah.
It's with transplants, of course. If the soil is dry, then you need to water them. But with this rain in this area, then it's no problem.
For us, we've got, and like I've said before on the show, it's the royal we. My wife, who's doing most of the growing for the perilla leaves that we've got. I showed you a picture of them, which are great because they're delicious.
Yes. Perilla is an interesting plant. It's in the mint family.
Yeah.
And it's used in Oriental cuisine. And it's also very popular in Japan.
Yeah. And I think because there's the in Korea, the one that it's called catnip, and the one that they use, it's a bit bigger. And in Japan, shiso is what it's called. And it's kind of theirs is smaller and almost mintier, but without being like mint, if that makes sense.
Yes, and it's you can get a purple variety as well.
Which is great.
Yeah. But the other interesting thing about perilla is that it has antiseptic properties, which will keep things fresh. If you lay fish on it, for instance, it helps keep them fresh.
That's wild. That's so cool. I love it. we've got some folks on the line. Before we go to them, I've got a couple of emails. I'll knock off one question early, because sometimes I tend to wait too long for the emails. But here's one: our garlic, planted last fall, is unusually tall, 3 to 4 foot leaves. No signs of scapes yet. We are concerned about production of the bulbs. Should we trim off the tops of the leaves? Also, we give them a balanced fertilizer, 6-12-12 or 20-20-20. Any suggestions there?
No, that's probably proceeding in the right direction, because you shouldn't cut off any of the leaves, because that's contributing to the growth of the bulb underneath.
Yeah, those are the solar panels, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, don't cut off the solar panels, or you're going to have a failure to launch there with the bulb.
But you'll eventually see the spikes, the escapes coming.
Talk to me, and again, just before we go to the phones, indicator plants.
Yes.
Because you said some of them are early this year. And because we had such a cold spring, and yet the indicators are indicating, hey, earlier than normal.
Yes, like something like the chuckly pear, which is Amelanchier. It is an indicator plant that I observe every year and keep a note of when it blooms. And this year it bloomed 2 weeks earlier than last year. But if you remember last year, it was a really cold spring and that.
But still, it's not like spring was great here, like this year, but last year is 2 weeks earlier than last year, even though last year was cold too.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because we didn't have the cold temperatures at night.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yes. And so that contributes to the growth of the plant.
Right. Yeah. Let's go to the lines. We've got Jackie on the line from St. John's. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, Adam. How are you today?
Good. How you doing?
Not too bad, thanks. And how are you doing, Ross?
All good, Jackie.
Have a quick question and a more detailed one. Quick one first, I guess. I was thumbing through your book yesterday, looking for information on my second question, and noticed that you recommend 20-20-20 fertilizer or a similar one on roses once or twice during the growing season. Now, I really try to stay organic. What would be a reasonable substitute for the 20-20-20? All I've ever put on them is a bit of compost up, dressing compost every year.
Yes. It's interesting you brought up that question, because this is the time of the year when you really need, starting now, to feed the plants during the growing season.
Makes perfect sense.
Yes, and with something 20-20-20, it's a 1-1-1 ratio of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So if you and on the label of all fertilizer materials, whether it be organic or inorganic, you have to get something in that ratio, 1-1-1, or I prefer 2-1.
Okay.
2 in that ratio. So it's just a matter of putting on more of the organic material if it's a low amount of nutrients in it.
Okay. So like fish emulsion is one that comes to mind?
Well, now you have to be careful, because
okay. Yeah.
because it could be very high in nitrogen, and you don't want a fertilizer that's high in nitrogen for flowering plants or for root vegetables.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what would be an example of one you would deem more or less organic?
Well, I don't know the brand names offhand, but there's quite a few on the market. But
okay.
I'll
take a look around.
Yeah.
Okay.
But always check the form. Always check the formula rather than the brand name.
Okay. Gotcha.
For example, the Miracle Grow company that produces Miracle Grow is not one formula. There's a dozen different formulas.
Oh yeah, I know. You drive you crazy reading the labels.
Yeah, So, but it's not a good idea to have really high phosphorus fertilizer during the summer. Phosphorus is required in lesser amounts than nitrogen or potassium.
Gotcha. So basically, the potassium is what you want for flowers, I take it.
Well, that and nitrogen, of course, as well, because especially when you get a lot of high rainfall like we're having today, nitrogen is easily leached from the soil.
Okay. Now, the next question, I guess, which has sort of been a discussion on Newfoundland Gardening Facebook group. I want to make sure I'm right on this, or I get it straight that I'm doing it right. I hate to dispute anything that you say about gardening in Newfoundland, but I'm not disputing it. I just want to know. So someone asked the question if they could plant nursery-grown shrubs now, which is obvious. The obvious answer is yes. Someone else piped in and said that you recommend that you water them profusely once a week. Now, when I have planted any new planting for me, especially once it starts to get a bit dry, I make a point of watering them daily for about 2 weeks and then switch to the once a week route.
Yes.
I don't care who's right or wrong. I just want to know.
No. You want to make sure
you don't learn anything if you don't question it.
You want to make sure the soil doesn't dry out. That's the important thing. And
yes.
and that depends, of course, on the weather conditions. It depends on the type of soil and that sort of thing. So the important thing is to keep the soil moist until the roots get down deeper where they can get more moisture.
Okay. So basically, if you have a dry day with a westerly wind, you wouldn't wait a week.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine right here. I inherited my father's garden with 60 years of seaweed, manure, and compost.
Oh, yeah. Well, then you've got a good...
So I'm fine, but in general terms, I was sort of questioning, geez, once a week doesn't seem very much for something newly planted.
Well, there's the problem with container-grown plants. You see, the root ball is grown so that it only depends on that root ball for moisture for at least a month or 2 months, probably. So that's why it's important to have to prevent the root ball from drying out.
Right. So basically, keep it moist, but don't drown it.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, I was just kind of curious if I haven't lost too many plants that I've planted, whether nursery grown or one that I dug up in someone's garden. So I sort of figured that I couldn't be totally wrong. But in the meantime, no harm in getting more detailed information.
Right.
Okay, I'll listen to the rest of the program on podcast later because it's raining, so I got to get building materials and do the work before the sun comes out again.
Well, this is a good time to fertilize the around trees and shrubs and that sort of thing because, of course, the rain is going to wash down immediately down into the root zone.
Yes. Yeah, no, okay. So sort of next time it stops raining. It's supposed to be raining on and off next 5 days, so that'll do it.
Yeah. And with rhododendrons, for example, it's best to fertilize them just after the blooms start to fade. And
do you use rhododendron fertilizer or just a normal one?
Normal
you covered
one.
that in your book a bit.
Rhododendron fertilizer is acidifying fertilizer, and you don't want acidifying fertilizers in Newfoundland. So
yes, I read that in your book yesterday. Yeah. So basically, similar to what you put on the roses.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
a general purpose fertilizer, and if you get it on just before the heavy rain, then it gets washed in right away, and then you don't have to worry about it on the getting it on the leaves. So you can go in and broadcast around plants when it's raining.
Right.
And it makes it a lot easier.
Yes, it does. Okay, I appreciate your help. Thanks very much, Ross.
Okay.
Thanks, Jackie. All right, and Jackie just said something that is really important for everyone who's listening. Magic words, I will listen to the rest of the show on the podcast later. We podcast every show, which is available, so you can listen to us any time you want. Like there was a time when a show would go on the air and then would be lost in the radio ether. Now, we're here for you. If you want to just listen, you can, right? Like I said, wherever you get your podcasts, CBC Listen app or other podcasty type places. And we put pretty much every show up on YouTube. So CBC Newfoundland and Labrador, The Signal has its own playlist. All the shows are there. You can just pop it on your smart TV, just have it on in the background and dip in and out as you like. It is gardening day. I'm Adam Walsh. Don't know why I had a on that. I know who I am, what show this is, or do I? Ross Travers is here, horticulturist. It is, like I said, gardening day, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. Emails, thesignal@cbc.ca. Neil is on the line. Hi, how you doing? Hi, Neil. Hello. Oh, we lost Neil. Let's see. We're regrouping. Hi, Neil. Are you there?
That's definitely him.
Hello. Hi. I'm going to move on to Glovertown. Newvadi's on the line. Hi. Hello. Or none of our phones are working, which, for a show where you're looking for calls, not ideal, Ross.
No.
But we can continue to push on through. Hi, Yuvadi, you there?
Yes.
Hey, we did it. We did it.
Hey.
Hey. I was just thinking me and Ross are going to chat for the rest of the show. But how you doing? How's Glovertown? Is it raining there today, or is it just cloudy? How's the temperature?
Cloudy and dry, so I try to work in the garden. So this is ongoing question, and sometimes you don't really understood very well, miss or misunderstood. So about gallweed, so I had a lot in my garden, but sadly, when I sell my flower creeping frog, so it transferred to another people's garden, and it caused trouble. So I just wondering how to get ready. A lot of people look at the YouTube or Google or all kind of garden advice. So for me, usually I don't mind. I just dig it out and then put on the borderline in the water on the log. So, and I just wondering, can we eat it? If we eat it, like I can put in the. When I read it, say you can eat like a salad or mixed stir fry. So I eat dandelion leaf, and I try to, can I eat gallweed? I don't really need it, but they're curious. So if I put in the bag and then let them, compose it, and then can I use that, make tea or put in the water and water the garden for fertilizer? Okay, that's my question.
Okay, thanks. Goutweed, can you eat your way out of that problem, Ross?
No, it's not very appetizing, I don't think.
I think some folks use some of it for some things. Yeah.
Yeah, but with goutweed, of course, you want to make sure if you're putting it in the compost, you really want to make sure that it is rotted down to the point where you don't see any green or any roots. But I don't recommend putting it in the compost. Just get rid of it.
So how to get rid and put in the garbage bag and put in the dump or garbage pickup, and then there will be nuisance?
Or you could bury it 2 feet deep, and that'll keep it under control. No.
Don't let them grow up or born again.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Yuvadi. Yeah, it's that goutweed question. It's a tough one.
Well, anybody that's not opposed to using Roundup.
Yeah.
Roundup works beautifully on it.
Yeah. So that'll, if you're not opposed to it.
And if you're worried about spraying and getting on other plants, there is a technique where you can take a foam rubber paintbrush, a little foam rubber paintbrush, dip it into the Roundup solution, and paint it on the leaves.
There you go.
And with any troublesome weed, if you don't want to get it on the other plants, then that's a technique that you can use. Because with Roundup, it's translocated from the leaf into the root. The root is what is being killed.
Yeah. Which is the big, that's the hardest bit if you're not using it.
Yeah.
Because like the root just it just keeps on kind of thriving.
That's right.
Yeah.
But and that's why you don't see any results for about a week or so.
Yeah.
After you treat it.
Right. Hear that, gout weed, folks? There's your other tip. If you don't mind using Roundup, the natural way from digging it out and trying to eat it, and there's a bunch of other stuff you could try. But there we are. Let's go to Neil, who's I believe is on the line right now. Hi, Neil.
How you doing?
Good.
How you doing, Ross? How's it going?
Good.
Neil O'Grady calling here from O'Grady's Horticultural in Carbonear. What's all the news with you guys?
Oh.
Hanging out, talking about the grow season, and looking at the parkway now. I think the rain is let up for now, but I think we're getting more.
No, out here, it's brightening up. The rain has stopped. It's brightening up. I don't know if God's country or what it is, but it's not too bad out there now. I mean, it's still pretty wet. We had a fair bit of rain last night.
Yeah.
They were just talking about the gout weed there. When I dig up my gout weed, or when I dig through my vegetable garden, I just throw it on top of the ground, and the sun bakes it, if you have any sun, of course.
Yeah.
And that seems to dry it up, and it seems like it just disappears,
Yes.
I know that's a lot of work for a lot of people, but
well, if
I have a lot of it out here. Of course, it's a bloody nuisance. But anyway,
if you if you let it dry, sometimes what will happen if it gets wet again, then it'll rehydrate and start to grow again. So you have to be a bit careful about that.
Yeah. Well, I got an asphalt driveway there, so I throw it on my asphalt walkway here, and it bakes in the sun for a couple of days, and I just throw it out. Then it's a bloody nuisance. You remember, Ross, years ago, I used to call into Ann Buds there with onions. I don't know if you recall my onions. Used to go out my onion patch when I said them, they'd be upside down.
Right.
I never recall it or not, but anyway, that's earthworms pulling up the onion sets and turn them upside down. I was rather intrigued by that. I've never seen it before, but I remember going out to be, and they'd be upside down because apparently they pull they like the papery sheet.
Right.
And they wrap around the onion, you pull it down. I don't know. Most people I hear tell never heard tell of it, but there's a few people around here in this area that had onions that happened to them. You go out and your onion sits upside down. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but
well, I remember you mentioning it, but
you remember that some years ago now.
But you must have big earthworms, the big night crawlers, is it?
Oh yes, I got big earthworms here. Oh my God, they're like snakes, right? Right? But anyway, we're talking about onion sets. I don't have a big lot of luck with onion sets the last few years. I've been growing my onions from seeds.
Yes.
I don't know if you got any comments on between seed and sets, but I find my seed last year, I got them started here now. They're about 1.5 foot high. Put those out in the garden. I had onions last year as big as tennis balls. Lovely, right?
Right. Well, yes, it's best.
The quality of sets are not the same or whatever.
No. Yeah, I find with sets sometimes they bolt and produce a seed stock before they mature into onions.
That's right. Yeah.
So if you can grow them from seed, it's much better.
Oh yes, yeah. I haven't grown from seed. Yeah. Now, have you grown any leeks in your day?
Oh yes, we grow leeks every year in the garden, and they're great because in many cases they overwinter, and so a few weeks ago I dug some that was in the ground all winter.
Okay. So what do? Do you cover them up in the fall, or?
You can mound up the soil around the stems to give you a whiter stem,
Yeah, and do you cut the tops or anything off them, or?
No. Just leave them like that.
Okay, all right, because I've never grown them before. It's my first year, yeah.
Okay,
I got them here now. They're probably close to a foot high now in pots, so I guess I should put them in now when the weather gets fine.
That's right, and you want to feed them a couple times during the growing season.
Sure, yeah. I guess they require a fair bit of nitrogen, do they? Or?
That's right, yes.
Yeah. So you give them something, I don't know, about 30, 10, 10 or something like that, or whatever, Yeah.
Good old nitrogen boost, hey, to your plants.
Good old nitrogen, yeah. No, I was talking to a colleague of mine talking about nitrogen, and he grinds up dandelions in a blender and steeps it out and puts it on his vegetables for a nitrogen fix.
That's
I don't know
right.
if you've ever heard of it or not.
But if you can get kelp or seaweed, and put it in a barrel and let it ferment, and draw off the water, then that's a good source, organic source of nutrients. But you have to be very careful to dilute it down probably 10 times.
Right.
Wow. 10 to 1.
Beer to stink too as well.
What's that?
Yes. Beer to stink.
No, that's a nice sea smell.
Yeah.
You know, the loveliness of the ocean in your backyard, all in a bucket.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, nice talking to you again there then, anyway. Great show.
Thanks, Neil.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, all the best now. Take care now. Bye-bye.
See you, buddy. All right. Fantastic. Onions the size of tennis balls.
Yeah.
Not bad. Wimbledon's about to start now soon, so there you go. Making me think of tennis. Text come in.
By the way, the world record for the largest onion, I think, is somewhere around 11 pounds.
11 pounds for an onion.
Yeah.
Wow. Would that taste any good? It should be fine, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I think if it gets bigger, it might be a little weird for taste, but who knows? Text just came in. Good show as always. I'd love to hear Ross on the airways. Just curious as to how often you should lime and fertilize a new hydro-seeded lawn, so from last fall. It's growing good, and I already cut it a couple weeks ago, so that's from Rick.
Well, fertilizer should be applied now.
Yeah.
Especially if there's a good rain coming, then that's the time to fertilize it with a formula that I've been always recommending is something that's a bit low in phosphorus, so like a 15-5-15, which is a 3-1-1 ratio, 3-1-3 ratio, 3-1-3 ratio. So that 15-5-15 with magnesium is one of the best fertilizers. Now, it's not easily available, but you check around and you get something in that ratio. And because, you see, if you use high phosphorus fertilizer, you end up acidifying the soil more so than you would with the lower phosphorus fertilizer. The other thing that's important is the lime, but lime can be applied any time, but it's best to apply, but the reaction for lime is quite slow, so it's going to take probably 2 or 3 months before you get the real effect of adding lime. So a lot of people like to lime in the fall, and then the freezing and thawing in the wintertime helps work it into the soil.
Oh, so at least that's good for something.
Yeah.
All right. We've got Terry on the line from Gould's. How you doing?
Good, Adam.
How's your grow season going?
So far, so good. I got a question about onions. Also, I just put the plants in the ground yesterday, and Ross, I've been growing these Kelsey Sweets for years,
Yes.
and I used to get a scattered plant with a sort of a huge stalk before it branched out into the different stems. And of course, when these things matured, you get a very, very small bulb and a huge stalk, which gets to be an issue, as you know, when you go to season them, because you usually take them and buckle the stalks over and let the leaves dry.
Right.
Because I have a storage area here, and we keep the onions. Actually, we've just ate our last onion from last year, just last week or so. But I find that the more and more I'm getting these plants from the nursery with these huge or long stalk before it gets in, branches out to the different stems. And, of course, I just wonder what's causing that, or what can be done. Is there anything that can be done to prevent it from happening?
Yes, one of the things that is required when you're growing the plants is steady growth. If you get checks in the growth, like if it dries out and then you water and then dries out again and water, but if you got constant moisture for growing the plants, so there's no check in the growth, then that would eliminate most of the problem.
So that's what's causing that to happen. I guess it's from the nurseries. So there must be spurts in the growth pattern.
That's right. Yes. So and of course you want to use a soluble fertilizer when you're growing the plants to feed them every week or so with a dilute solution, so that you get steady growth.
Yeah, I was just curious. Like I used to get a scattered one like this years ago, and I've been growing these things for like years, probably the last 15 or 20 years. And but I noticed in the last 2 or 3 years, there seems to be more and more of these things coming. You know.
Yes, if you're they're easy plants to grow as transplants because you can sow them thinly in a container, and then you don't have to prick them out or transplant them into another container. You just leave them there and feed them and water them, of course, and you get a nice steady growth. So if you have a place where it's a sunny location, you can grow them inside or and start them off in March, or
just grow them like without a greenhouse or anything.
Without a greenhouse, if you have a sunny location, a south-facing window. And then, as soon as the weather forms up, then you can put them outside in the daytime.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been getting these plants from the nurseries, and they usually come in a box with a whole bunch of them into one. And I've been getting them early in early May, and separating them out into individual, just small pots, so they can form their own root bulb, and they're easier to transplant, and they got a better survival rate. But when I get the plants, even when they're really tiny, they got these huge, like probably an inch and a half before it starts to branch into the individual stems, you know?
Right. Now, one of the most useful little structures that you can have in your backyard in a sunny location is what we call a cold frame.
Yeah, I got one of those, yeah.
And well, then they can be put out there very early in the season, when they start after they germinate. And then
I do all that. It's just the issue I got with these stems, and you can't plant them down deeper. I guess you got to sort of just leave them the way they are with the bulb just under the ground, haven't you?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I got one other question for you now, if you got a minute.
Sure.
I grafted an apple tree to a crabapple stem, and it survived quite well, and it's doing really, really well. And I've had it now for 2 or 3 years. But what's happening, of course, the apple part, or the good apple part of the stem is getting huge, and the crabapple stem is still quite small. So is there any danger there, or anything I can do to keep from them snapping off when it gets bigger?
Well, you'd have to support it, of course, for a few years, but the other thing is that the rootstock, the crabapple rootstock, should be planted down deep, close to the graft. Should be just at the surface of the soil.
Yeah, that's the mistake I made, I guess.
Yeah, but you can mound up some soil around it, probably.
Oh, can you do that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try that.
Yes, and they'll produce more roots. That's the rootstock, the crabapple rootstock.
Oh yeah, I see. Oh yeah, good. I'll have a crack at that in that case.
Yes.
Good to hear you're still on the go, Ross.
Okay, thanks.
Take care of yourself.
Okay.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Terry.
Bye.
Always like to get a call from the Goulds. Thank you for that, Terry. If you want to join the conversation, Ross Travers is here. I'm Adam Walsh. This is The Signal, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. I want to circle back earlier when we were talking about Roundup, right? And for goutweed. Someone sent a text in saying, hey, it's poisonous, ends up back in our drinking water as it seeps into the ground. Just any thoughts? Any thoughts around that? Just
no,
because you were talking about put it on the leaf, right, with
yes,
a brush,
painting it on the leaf. But the glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, glyphosate is inactivated by the soil.
Yeah.
So that once it gets into on the surface of the soil, it will be inactivated and is no longer toxic.
Okay.
That's the scientific background on that.
Thank you for that. No, because the text came in, so I wanted to do the clarifier on it, which is always really really important.
The only way it would get into the drinking water or any if it was sprayed directly on open surface of water.
Yeah. Okay. So folks, don't do that. Another point to an email in about lilacs. Our lilac is not doing very well. Only a few weak blooms, small, thin foliage. It is quite old. Blooms vary from year to year, are often good, but it has never been this poor. No sign of disease or insects that we can detect. I suspect poor nutrition since there are various shrubs and plants all around. What do you think?
Well, first of all, it needs full sun. If there's anything that's happened to shade, like another tree or something to shade it, then that would be a problem. That's what would account for the lack of bloom in that. But also, it needs you need to apply a good mulch out around the edge of where the branches come out, so that the mulch will then conserve the moisture. And if you can get an organic mulch that has nutrients in it, then so much the better. If you live near the ocean, you can use seaweed. Kelp makes a nice mulch and provides nutrients as well.
Excellent. Yeah, so this ties in with the next questions here. We have fertilized with stakes. Is this best? If so, which type? But you were mentioning mulch, especially if it's, if you can use kelp. Can we fertilize close to the main stem since the drip line overlaps with a nearby small tree, which is thriving?
Yes, and a nearby small tree might be robbing the nutrients from the lilac.
Yeah, and especially where it is thriving. So that could be one of the answers there. Let's go back to the phones. We've got Donna on the line. Hi.
Oh, hi. How are you guys? Hang on. I got to turn off my radio.
No worries. We're good. We're just hanging out, looking to see how the rain is in St. John's.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm sorry, Adam.
No, it's okay. Don't worry.
How are you?
Wonderful to hear you back again.
Thank you.
Now, I started growing a few other vegetables a couple of years ago, having mixed success. I'm wondering about peppers, Ross, after I finally got over the aphid infestation.
Right.
So now I know to look out for that. But I'm wondering, there seems to be two schools of thought about whether they should be top pruned or not. And I wondered what your ideas were on that.
Well,
on pepper plants, whether you should top prune them to make them bushier or more prolific.
They normally would grow that way anyway, nice and...
Okay.
But one of the things you can do in August is remove any of the new blossoms coming out because they might not mature fruit anyway.
Okay.
And it would take away from the other peppers that are growing.
Okay.
So.
But you don't see any need to trim off the whole top branch, the top leaf. No. Okay, good. That's easier.
Okay.
That way I won't mess it up. I appreciate it. Right. Wonderful to hear you back.
Thank
you. Have a good day.
You too,
okay.
Bye.
All right, you're listening to The Signal. We've been working our way through the calls. We've got texts. We've got emails. Special thanks for those of you sending pictures in. Thank you so much, because we'll pop those up onto the show afterwards if you want to check out the show on YouTube. So thesignal@cbc.ca. So Otelia from Grand Falls, Windsor, thank you for your picture of rhododendrons, hostas, and Weigelia. Everything looks fantastic in Grand Falls, Windsor, judging by those pictures that you sent in. And Ross was saying earlier, from my garden, I found out because we moved to a new place, and I was looking near the patio, and alliums popped up. Those things are great.
Yeah, nice little little puff balls of flower, flower.
Yeah. I took an Instagram video of it, and because they were kind of like swaying in the sun, and I played some Debussy, right, like Clair de Lune music with it. And my sister sent me a text. My nephew, who's young, apparently his one word for it was boring. I was like, "Thanks, Bronson." But I thought it looked great, and they're beautiful little. They are beautiful little flowers to have, especially as a surprise for when you just move into a place. Karen's on the line from Paradise. Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good, thank you very much.
Got a question or grow season update?
Well, I just turned on my radio, and I hope this is an okay question regarding 2 Japanese cherry blossom trees that I have.
Sure.
So I planted, I've never really done anything with plants or flowers in my very busy life, but always loved Japanese cherry blossom trees. And 4 years ago, this month, I planted 2 on my property. They were probably 6 or 8 feet high, just not very big. And only about a month ago, I discovered that I should not have planted those as close to my house as they are, and I have to move them. And so I have, they're pretty big now for me, and it is I who have to move them. And I'm just wondering if there's any advice on moving.
Well, you can do it in the fall, but there's no advantage of moving them in the fall other than convenience. But early in the spring is your best time for moving any type of tree.
And then for the process, if you've got these, if they're Japanese cherry trees, they've been growing for about, is it 4 years you said, Karen?
Well, I planted them 4 years ago, and I purchased them from a nursery, and they were very, they didn't have much on them, but they were probably 5 or 6 feet high when I bought them. And so they're getting big. And so, the process is the biggest question, because I haven't done any investigating. I just heard you guys speaking now on the radio and thought I would call quickly. But
it's a big, it sounds like a big task.
I have to dig out, and it's going to be very heavy. But even how to, is there any kind of special digging tools that would help me to be able to get down, as deep as I need to go and down underneath? I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it or not.
One of the techniques is to dig out around probably a couple of feet around the stem, and then dig down using a shovel, or maybe you might even need to use a pickaxe to loosen up the soil, and then try and get a piece of heavy canvas or plastic underneath the root ball. As you dig down around, you can probably push it to one side and move the plastic underneath the root ball, and then you can slide it then with the plastic.
Oh, I see.
Just slide it over to the new location.
Okay, that sounds very helpful.
Because if you try to lift it by the stem, then you're going to break the roots, and a lot of the soil will fall away from the roots.
So the pickaxe and shovel, and do you know of anything else that will help me get underneath? I think carrying it is a great idea.
You need some help, of course, probably to do that.
Okay.
To slide.
Yeah, this is more than a one-person job. These types of
Yeah.
Yes, right. Okay, so pretty much pickaxe and shovel, but some help.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing extra in the way of any kind of tool that I wouldn't know about. Okay, that's very helpful. And go ahead.
No, you'd want to prepare the soil where you're planting it probably add some extra lime to the soil.
Okay.
The garden lime, and then some organic matter like peat-based mix, soil mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
keep it watered. Yeah.
Okay. And you think it's better early spring, do you?
Yes, as soon as the ground thaws out.
Okay, that's great. And one of the trees about 2 weeks ago, I noticed for the first time, like they've been doing amazingly well for the last 4 years. And but one of them, I noticed a lot of holes in the leaves and a little tiny bit of black, like a couple of little dried up leaves, but mostly just holes in the leaves on one of the trees. And I did see on the other tree a bunch, not a bunch, but 3 or 4 little black ants here or there. But do you know what could cause the holes to be in those leaves, or is there anything I need to treat or be worried about?
Yeah, it's difficult to say unless you you'd have to inspect the plant early in the season and check at least every week, so that if it's an insect that's causing the problem, then you'll see the insects there.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay, and the tree looks otherwise really, and the leaves look amazing too, but they do have those holes. So I'll check every week. I'll have a good look around to see if I can see a bug of any type on there.
That's right, yeah.
I really appreciate your help. Thank you so much.
We're here for you all season, Karen.
Thank you very much. Yes, love CBC. Love CBC. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, Karen calling from Paradise there. Folks, we're here, right? We love your updates. We love your pictures. Ross, check out Yuvadi's picture that she just sent in from Glovertown. Hold on. Yuvadi standing out in her garden there with the word love in the garden. It is a lovely picture, so we'll pop that up onto the old YouTube later today.
That's right. Yes, I've seen her garden years ago. Yeah,
amazing garden, just amazing. I've got Yuvadi on Facebook, so I see all the garden updates when I'm home procrastinating But you know what? If I'm looking at garden pictures, I guess it is kind of me doing my job. So there you go. I can look at all the garden pictures I want. I think we've got one more caller on the line. Marianne is on the line. How you doing?
I'm doing great this afternoon. How are you?
Good. Thanks for the call. Grow questions, or do you want to boast about something?
No. I have a question regarding a high noon peony tree that I actually had purchased at Traverse Gardens many years ago. I had a few years of beautiful yellow blooms on there and had planted a smoke bush a little too close. And seeing as how the peony tree was the smallest of the two, I decided to move the peony tree. And I fear that that was the end of it. For the past, I would say, 4 years, I've had just a brown stump in my bed. And but last year, there was a little ray of hope. I saw one teeny tiny little green leaf come out on the bottom of it. And but this year, there's no sign of anything. I have been digging out around, through the soil and putting some bone meal in there, and I've actually watered it with Root Booster, for example. Is there anything else that I can do, or should I just throw in the trowel on that peony tree?
Just dig down around the side of it.
Okay.
And see if there's any live tissue or live root there. If it's rotten and looks dead, then that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. Have
thanks,
a good
Marianne,
day.
you too.
Bye-bye.
Throw in the trowel. Oh, speaking my language there with that one. I love it. All right, we got about 5 minutes here left to gardening day today. And I've got a couple of emails and texts left to go through. So here's one. I love lilies, especially Asiatic, maroon/red. Where can I find them now in St. John's?
Well, You'd have to check around because it's getting close to the end of the season, and although there still might be some at some of the gardening centres, yeah.
Yeah, so just give the call around. Just to
give
see
a call around and see.
Yeah, okay. I have 2 older lilac trees that are approximately 11 feet tall. Every year they have plenty of blooms, and I didn't really do anything with them, just let them grow. This year there are only a small bunch of blooms on one side of each tree. The majority of the trees either have no leaves or shiny leaves. Any idea what is happening? That's from Gordon.
No leaves.
Or shiny leaves.
Well, if there's no leaves, of course, this time of the year, then that branch is dead.
Yeah.
So something happened to it, either exposure to strong winds in the winter. But I think it's probably just a matter of letting nature take its course and cut off in a week or so. Cut off any dead branches. Sometimes you can tie branches in place to cover up areas where the branches are dead, so to make it look like a better shaped shrub.
Is that called like toupéing in gardening speak? Prune hard.
Yeah.
If you need to tie a branch to make it move over to for the aesthetic, and then but also monitor it because and if they're dead, they're dead.
Yes, that's right.
All right. I hope they're not 11 feet tall. I mean and I love lilac trees, so hopefully they're okay. Here's another one. Is there anything you can do for apple scab? I have a tree that is approximately 70 years old, and it developed in the last 3 years.
Well, apple scab overwinters in the leaves and any fruit that have fallen underneath the tree. So it should in the fall, all the dead fruit and leaves should be raked up. And because the apple scab organism overwinters there, if you're ever replacing an apple tree or a flowering crab, make sure you get one that's resistant to apple scab, because there are beautiful varieties now of flowering crab and of apple trees that are resistant. They don't get apple scab.
We've got a minute and a bit left. 2 other things to get to. We'll see if we can do them quickly. Good day, Adam. This is from Barb. Can you please ask your guest, please ask Ross if I can use BTK as a preventative treatment on my newly planted boxwood shrubs, 36 in total as a hedge?
Yes. Follow the directions very carefully. That's a bacterial insecticide that you have to make sure that there's insects there.
Because here's the rest of the email. I was reading that there is an invasive moth that is playing havoc on boxwoods across Canada, including eastern Canada. Also as a treatment for my impatient annuals, 75 feet, that I lost last year due to an insect attacking them while I was on holidays.
Okay, yes. But see, these are contact insecticides, so you have to, the insect has to be in contact with the insecticide. So there's not much sense spraying after the insect is gone.
Yeah, okay.
Or before.
And last question for today. It's pictures of a rhodo planted 2 years ago, damaged by plowing the driveway this past winter. Wondering what I can do to improve its health and appearance/shape.
Well, if there's branches close to the ground, you can pin the branches close to the ground. Just rearrange some of the branches so to give it a better shape, and mulch it with a good decomposed bark mulch or something like that. Yeah.
Perfect. We got through everything and everyone, and we're done. Thank you. This was great.
Right.
Folks, thanks for the calls, the emails, the texts, the pictures, you name it. Gardening day, all through grow season. And sometimes even beyond on this signal. Looking ahead to tomorrow, here's a question for you. What has fiction taught you about real life? Joel Thomas Hines, author of Down to the Dirt, and Susie Taylor, author of Vigil, will be by, and they're both speaking at the Rooms tomorrow evening, so this is like a pre-show warm-up for them, but we're going to be talking about their work and parts of Newfoundland and Labrador that are not featured in the tourism ads. Until tomorrow, thanks.